overall, Manon's work sits at the intersection of climate resilience, urban greening, community action, and environmental data. And today, Manon is talking to us about making urban greening visible, street-level data, community action, and climate resilient. So thank you, Manon, and we have until about kind of 9:45, and then time for questions and coffee afterwards. So thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Yes, so as Joanne presented, we are developing tools to support urban greening. So what I'm going to talk about today is our thinking and our philosophy and lessons learned from the different people we engage with. And yeah, just let's start with a fact about the crisis of biodiversity decline. So just a few striking figures to start us with. So the swift population is a red species endangered. It declined about 70% since 1995. We're losing pollinators at a big rate as well. And about 35 bee species are now currently classified as under threat of extinction. And finally, the wildflower meadows have been disappearing since the 30s. And yeah, but we lost about an area of the size of Wales since that time. So that's just setting the scene. I'm sure all of you guys know the crisis we're in. So with that in mind, I want us to talk about the urban environment and the challenges that we're facing. So I took this photo. You recognize this place, of course. I want you guys to actually tell me a bit what you think are the main environmental challenges that we encounter in a dense urban environment. Yes.
Heat.
Yes. Extreme heat, yes, that's the main one. And obviously we lived through that with the heat wave. What else can you think of?
Water.
This shortage, yeah. Water scarcity.
Too much water.
Too much water, the flooding, yeah. Due to silt surfaces, yes. Air pollution, yes. One more?
Water pollution.
Yeah, water pollution. I don't have that one, but yes, for sure, because it sink down. Yeah. Okay, so that's a few of them already that I had. I put this image because I want to talk about the fragmented habitats as well. So we have a few different areas, and then wildlife cannot really go between them. I mean, most of you know about this, I imagine, and then also lack of biodiversity, so only not so much native species, and just losing that habitat for nature. Air pollution, mostly nitrogen dioxide, which is a big toxin for us and also for the plants, and noise pollution, which is disturbing the wildlife as well. And then I put this image, which I quite like. I saw it yesterday on LinkedIn. So this is showing the flood issue, really, because all of the surfaces are sealed. It's mostly impermeable, and we're not using these infiltrations that nature has done really well to also fill in the groundwater place. So that's this one, and then I want to finish with urban heat island, which is also linked to extreme heat, but that's one of the main challenges we have, especially in London. So I don't know if you guys know about the UHI effect, but it's about the rural areas that are much cooler than the center of the city, and it can be up to 10 degrees actually, from 5 to 10 degrees, the difference. So that's a huge issue as well that we're facing. So yeah, why really we have all of these challenges? At the end of the day, it's mostly related to planning decisions. So that's why I want to talk a bit about planning. So can you guys recognize the species, the tree species on the photo? Yes. So it's a London plane. So this species is actually really, really common, and about half of central London has London plane only as a tree species. And it's interesting because those trees, they are inherently resilient, so they can grow in a very small, compacted space. They grow quickly, they can be more resilient to heat, and so they are resilient, but because we plant all of the same, we are less resilient as a space, as a city, right? So if one of those trees has a disease, through root connection and just wind and water flowing, all of the alley of trees get the same disease, no more resilient. So that's something that's important to note, because a lot of planning decisions are based on this sort of labels I'm going to show you. So they want to target mostly cost-effective, low maintenance, something that's fast to build or fast to grow. So the plane tree is a good example. It's quite fast to build, to grow, and durable. So I would say that those are the main words that come back all the time in planning, and that's also why the decisions are made that deprioritize nature. So yeah, having that in mind, an extra challenging layer is ownership, land ownership. So in most cities, you have several actors that own the land. So you have local authorities, developers, businesses, residents, mostly private gardens. They might own something else. And just to give you an idea, in Bristol, because we've done quite a bit of studying in Bristol, but when you look at the land registry layer, you can actually see the patchwork of ownership in the city. So yeah, Bristol City Council has about 40% of the land, but all of the different colors is like local businesses, developers, and so this is showing you this extra challenge that we have to face when we want to integrate urban nature into the city. So this leads me to talk about just the city as a system of systems and how everything is interlinked. And when we think about one area, which is the green space, green infrastructure, we cannot forget about buildings and transport, energy, water, and that everything is connected. So I might want to put a tree on my street, but because of the utilities below, I cannot do it, right? So it's this kind of thinking that you need to have in mind to remember. But it's also positive because an action in one area is going to create ripple effects. So, for example, more strict trees are going to lead to cooling, to biodiversity returning, and better health for everyone. So how do we reintroduce nature into cities? We have identified 3 levers for us. So people and community power. So leverage this agency, this community agency, getting the people to gather and help each other and connect. And this, from these grassroots organizations, we can actually change things without having to wait for sometimes local authorities that are just take a long time to do a change. Green-blue infrastructure, I mean, obviously, I'm an advocate for this, but, having different scale of green and blue nature across the city is a big benefit. And then system and governance, so ideally working with planners, designers, policymakers to integrate biodiversity more into all layers of the city. So yeah, cities are part of the problem, but they're also one of the most powerful places to act, which is why it's interesting. So in Urban Biome, we focus more on those two, the community power and the green-blue infrastructure. This is just to have a little bit of a nature break. And also, so you notice just the color relaxing you, which is, I find quite interesting because you see the forest and even your brain without being in nature is already a bit more relaxed by seeing green and blue, because this is our metabolism and this is how we are, like living organism. And I imagine most of you know this term. It's in Japanese.
Forest based.
Yes, forest bathing. So it's actually, I think it was a bit of a trend at some point that people were really skeptical about. But in Japan, they've done a national survey about the effects of forest bathing and that it really reduces blood pressure and it calms people down, and spending 2 hours in the forest is really improving your mental health. So they have a program now to make people go to the forest and calm them down. This is a quote from Baroness Cathy Willis from Oxford University. So we see change in the body, such as lowering of blood pressure, a change in your heart rate variability, and your heartbeat slower. So all of this calming is thanks to nature, but we don't need to go to the forest to actually feel those effects, which is what I find interesting. Is even if you sit next to a small-scale green infrastructure, you're already going to have your cortisol going down, your blood pressure going down. You don't need to do 2 hours in the forest to do that. And there was a study done in 2022 about this, like, can we, even if we have a small amount of greenery, can we have those benefits? And so that's just one benefit of green infrastructure. And then I put that slide, which is showing you all of the various co-benefits that we can get. So it includes water management, education, low carbon transport, soil management, just helping the city overall. So yeah, so if we visualize the future a bit and what we want, this is ideally what we would like to see, like a network of social and green and blue infrastructure that intertwine in the city, and like with those microhabitats, but also reintegrated nature species and having all of those areas of shading that help with the heat as well. So trying to visualize that and thinking about connecting green and blue areas together to help the wildlife as well. So yeah, so based on this, we know really that microscale blue-green infrastructure can work and can help, but it is invisible, and the existing infrastructure is often poorly maintained. And if you work in the field, you know maintenance is often the big challenge that comes up. And people are always talking about this, so maintenance, or we want low maintenance, or we don't know how this is going to be maintained, so we're not going to do it. So that's where one of the key challenges is. And so what we propose is we creating a tool where it's at street level scale. And so we're doing this intelligence layer that's going to look at where the small scale green infrastructure is and connect people together so they can actually, on the platform, have someone to do the maintenance and communicate with each other like this. So we want to make it visible, actionable, and better maintained. And that's what we're working on we have been working on for the past 2 years, but the last year we've been focusing more on our tools that I'm going to show you. So who are we? Ruben Forster is my co-founder. He's the tech wizard behind this. And his background, he's a builder, gardener, and he's a self-taught developer, and he's building all the tech behind. So I'm Manon. Joanne presented me, but I work in climate resilience, and I specialize in this area. So I have about 10 years experience, and I'm just really interested in regreening cities. That's my passion. So what is our philosophy? It is based on not this book exactly, but urban acupuncture. So this concept was brought by Jaime Lerner. He's an urban designer and planner, Brazilian. And he wrote this book in 2014, but even from the 2000s, he started talking about it. So it's not a new concept. The idea is that like a human body where you are going to look at the pain points and put your little needles to heal it, we want to heal nature with those micro interventions. So it's a nice concept that with every planter, pocket garden, you can help cities to become more livable places and to heal cities with nature. I want to show you two quotes that are really speaking to me so you can understand a bit more our philosophy. This is from Marco Cassandro article about, again, urban acupuncture and third generation city. So it's this idea that we're moving from the industrial city towards more local knowledge and community action. So self-organized community action, and through the city of cracks, almost like the light comes through the crack, you're going to see emerge this new bio-urban growth, and is this whole idea of bio-urbanism and how the city can be part of nature. We are living organism, and we can make the city a living, breathing organism. So what is our mission? Our mission is to support communities and organizations understand, care for, and shape urban greening through local knowledge, environmental insight, and shared stewardship. And we're doing this with a toolbox. So Explorer is a tool where we can understand environmental challenges and hotspots in the city. Sightings is what we're focusing on right now. It's a tool where we map what's existing. We have volunteers taking photos for us. So it's this idea of we want to record and also see how it looks like. And then that's going to help with maintenance and being able to record over time as well. The third idea is Scout, which we have in the background. It's for people to walk around, and if they see an area where, oh, I could really see a green wall here, they can take a picture and it will show up on the map as well as an additional layer of imagining what could be expanding the urban greening layer. So we spent quite a lot of time at the beginning thinking about Explorer. So how to identify those pressure points, those hotspots in the city. At the bottom right here, you can see like us trying to do some hexagonal thing with like the heat layer, I think. And basically this whole thing is because satellite data is not high resolution. So satellite data, we are using satellite data, but it is minimum 10 meters, usually 30 meters resolution. So we were thinking how to get down to the pixel, how to like really reduce it. And then in the end, only using satellite data, you cannot really do this. So we decided to overlay the layers of environmental challenges, come up with a score for that, and that's how we made Explorer in the end. But because of this pixel idea, we then got to think, okay, how to actually see what's on the ground, you know, what is there? And if we can't do it with satellite, how to do it? So then it comes to the photo idea, right? And then to sightings. So Explorer, it looks like this now. It's if you're familiar with risk mapping, it's a bit similar. So we have 5 areas: flood risk, noise pollution, urban heat, lack of vegetation, and we also added deprivation because obviously socioeconomic deprived areas are something to consider as well. And we're using research, say, scaling, I don't know how to say, like the World Health Organization criteria, like the criteria from research online. And so if it exceeds this criteria, you go above the recommended levels and it shows up as colored on the side. And so obviously the area in red are the most critical to address. So that's the Explorer idea. However, we ended up moving away from this because we were, okay, we have this risk map, but what to change on the ground, right? We're still not really acting on the ground. We're still not really making a difference. It feels like this is not it. So we arrived to this Sightings, which is what I was describing earlier around going around and recording what's actually existing. And so we started to record with photos and volunteers the condition, if there is an issue or not, which is flagging in the little red triangle, extra observation, and what type of species you can see. And so we started mapping Bristol like that this year. And we have about 180 sightings now. And the idea is to map completely every district so you can have a really clear understanding of what's existing. And in terms of our long-term vision, we want to layer Sightings with Explorer to then help with decision-making, and based on what's existing and what are the hotspots, you can decide, okay, it makes sense to actually invest here for urban greening. So right now, our focus this year is to build Sightings. This is our mapping tool of existing green infrastructure. So we want to map what and where the infrastructure exists. So on the right, you can see a screenshot of what happens when you want to add a sighting. So we categorize by type and then condition, maintenance, observation, issues, and species. So we want to record that, and then we're working at the moment on stewardship and trying to understand a bit more, okay, who's maintaining it, who's owning it, who has delivered it. And so that's quite complicated, because obviously in a lot of areas, you actually don't have any information. You don't even have a label on like, oh, who delivered that planter? It's not written down. So that's been quite tricky, but we've been working on that with our volunteers and also with the local organizations. So this is a mix of delivery groups and community groups, but basically in Bristol, you have quite a few active community groups who are already doing maintenance and planting. And so you want to identify those as well, because ideally then you connect the delivery groups with the community, and then they can help each other that way. And that's what we're aiming to do. So, okay. What we learn from practitioners, which are really a mix of organizations, like local organization, local authority, some delivery groups as well that we talk to, who deliver microforest or rain gardens. So they all came up with the same idea around we don't necessarily, the challenge isn't so much planting, but they need to know what needs attention, and they need to know what exists before deciding on the next move. And then there is a big challenge around maintenance again, and who what needs priority for maintenance, and what's happening between site visits. They don't have this visibility over time. And it was what was it called? Festival of Nature. So this month it was the Festival of Nature in Bristol, I think 2 weeks ago. And we had an event called Imagining the Future We Want in Bath. And there was a presentation by Andrew Grant, who is the leader. He led the design of Gardens by the Bay in Singapore. So it was really interesting to see him here. And what was more interesting for me is that as part of his talk, he said, you know, what is the gap here? We actually need a toolkit to plan and monitor nature. And I thought, okay, great, we're in the right direction because this is what we are trying to do. So having this feedback from practitioners has been really helpful and help us guide us towards the direction we are right now. Oh, and yeah, so other lessons learned. As I said before, like small-scale green infrastructure is fragmented and often absent from data sets. Maintenance is very important. People want to understand what already exists. Stewardship is distributed, so yeah, responsibility are shared between groups, making coordination difficult. I'm going through that really quickly because we talked about a few of this. Local knowledge is valuable, so people on the ground often know what's happening long before organizations do. And finally, decision-making needs better evidence. So we need to combine this street-level observation with environmental context. Now our volunteers. So back in February this year, or even January, I started to think, okay, it would be great to bring on some people to help us with sightings. And actually, I just posted something on LinkedIn asking for support, and I got quite a few people responding, mostly university students, but not only. And so I got a small group of 5 people to start mapping. So they were mapping different sightings in different neighborhoods. And really that was the first beta version of sightings. So they were really helpful at providing feedback, and we were just testing the first version, taking photos. And so it was great to have them to map out this first version. And so what we learned from them is couple of things. So they enjoyed actually walking around and discovering those places we don't necessarily see, which were nice for me to hear, because the one thing that's important for us as well is to keep the fun in the practice. So we wanted our volunteers to also have fun using the app, right? So they actually said they like walking around and record observations, and it's very important for them to know their contributions make a difference, and they're also really interested in talking to local organizations. Just a few things that they were telling us, and then I put a photo of Summer on the right, who's my the person who's done probably most of the sightings around Bristol. And so, that's just a quote from her saying what she liked around recording this data, and how it helped her think around urban planning and how to take environment and sustainability into consideration. So, these people have been really helpful. And here I have a few slides that Summer put together on her findings. So in Southville, that's like a south central neighborhood in Bristol, we mapped out about 23 sightings, which is actually not that much for an area of 1.5 square kilometers. So that took about 4 hours to map. So it's actually quite long if you want to do it thoroughly. And then she managed to find like sort of the percentage of who owns what, council owned, so mostly council owned, and then you have some community ownership, because in Southville also you have this community group which is BS3 community group. And they are doing their own planters, and they are doing quite a lot of work in their organization. And then she did this graphic that shows you the proportion of the number of sightings of blue-green infrastructure types in each borough. We've only mapped 2 here because we know for sure those 2 have been completed. But you can see the urban trees, the street trees coming up, and the raised beds. And then we also have a lot of planters. There are a lot of planters. Like those neighborhoods, they don't even represent how many planters there are, but and then also some gardens, actually community gardens, which was nice to see. In terms of blue infrastructure, we don't really have much, but she did find a pond, which I thought was interesting because I thought there wouldn't be any in the city center. You know, when she told me this, I thought, okay, it does make sense to actually include blue infrastructure as well. At first, I thought, okay, let's just do green infrastructure. And now we have also a list of types that also include some blue ones. Some species that she found, so flowers, birch trees, plane tree, sage, lavender. So it's very varied. I mean, we don't necessarily have one that comes out, but again, what we need now is, is more sightings to then be able to analyze the trends and what come up. And then we can say at the end, okay, out of 500 sightings, we have this species coming back, like, I don't know how many hundred of times. And also which we want to look at which places are thriving, really, to understand, okay, this species seems to really go through well all of the weather condition and time of the year, and trying to understand these patterns a bit more. And so towards my final slides now, but how the project evolved, I do want to talk about this again, because at first we were so focused on environment, building this environment intelligence platform, which is this initial idea of taking satellite data and identify where the cities need greening. And that was done through Explorer. And then we started to think, okay, let's look at what to do on the ground. And so we started with sightings and mapping existing interventions. And through engagement, really, we really shifted more our thinking and our work. And, because so many people really highlighted this maintenance and visibility issues, that's where we really started to look, okay, how to integrate that into our tool and respond to that need. But beyond that as well, we both have this vision of bringing agency to the community. So the stewardship idea is very big in our work, and we want to work towards shared stewardship. And so current focus is to map and monitor existing interventions, and future direction would be to combine Explorer and Sightings, like I showed you, and in 1 year, 2 years, be able to say, okay, this is where you need to do more greening. So our next steps this year, we're developing the Sightings app. So we're currently working on iOS. It's tricky because we have the base, but we want now to integrate the stewardship idea. So this two-way communication between delivery groups and volunteers. So how to do that in the app, we're working that out. having some pilot projects. So we have been in conversation with Bristol Bead and other organizations to start piloting this a bit more. More volunteers. So I'm thinking of the second cohort of volunteers starting soon, but I would like the first version of the app to be ready first. So I'm hoping, by August, the app is done, and then September, second cohort can start. Funding applications and partnerships with a couple of the organizations that I've shown you. So someone asked me, Jane actually, who's online, asked me, what would you need support with? So I was trying to think about it a bit. I mean, obviously, it's part of the volunteering thing, which is around really having the manpower to record more sightings. We are building this app, so we need people to test and feedback. So when that's done, we are going to work with some delivery groups to do this test and feedback, but it's also good to have volunteers to just test it for us, like Summer. So Summer, she's tested quite a lot, and she reported quite a lot of bugs and issues. So that's really helping us to build the app further. Having more of these local groups, delivery groups, community groups, various organizations that work in this field, like identify them and involve them more, and learning what they need and what their challenges are, which I know you're doing as well, in your course, but that's something we need to work on as well. And as I said, also analyze the data. So not only have this record, but also after having a bit more data, do an analysis and looking at, okay, what species work best, like who seems to own this, what are the links, and make an analysis of this. And yeah, working on these stewardship ideas that I told you earlier. So that's the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Manon. That was so interesting, and I think really wonderful to hear, like your challenges as you start to grow this. So very exciting. Thank you.